All right, folks, welcome back. I am Sheepdog Smokey, and this is just more proof that even when confronted with irrefutable evidence that the Democrats care nothing for anyone but themselves, it's softball. In this one, we have a story where Anderson Cooper notices Beto O'Rourke has a lot of merchandise on his website, but not a lot of substance. But Anderson is not going to castigate him for that. He's going to softball it. As we look here, Anderson Cooper from CNN noted that Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis O'Rourke, he's Irish, not Mexican, who announced his campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination on Thursday, has a lot of merchandise on his website, but not a lot about his political policy preferences. Cooper was speaking to Joe Hagan of Vanity Fair, who was criticized for his fawning article on the candidate. Hagan opined that O'Rourke has gained name recognition from unsuccessfully attempting to unseat Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, but they needed to prove that he has substance to back up the popularity. It does seem like he's sort of, for many people that may know the name, but there's kind of a blank slate in terms. Maybe it's like a roar, or like you can project your own ideas onto what he actually is. I'm sure what Cooper was going for there is a Rorschach blot. Hagan agreed. If you go to his campaign website, there's a lot of stuff for sale, I noticed. T-shirts, there's a tote bag. There's really nothing there on policy positions. Are his policy positions thought out? And Hagan goes on to say that he presses on him on a few of them, and he would say that he has opinions about things. But the more you press him on things, the fuzzier he gets. Now the question is whether he'll develop these as he goes along. Donald Trump weighed in on Thursday and mocked O'Rourke for waving his hands too much. I said, is he crazy or is that just the way he acts? The president responds to reporters. So I've never seen hand movement. I watched a little while this morning, and I assumed it was a news conference, and I've actually never seen anything like it. O'Rourke responded with a laugh and dismissed the criticism, saying voters wanted politicians to rise above pettiness. Well, Robert, that disqualifies you and every other Democrat out there. Of course, this is a little. This is overhand softball, but it's still overhand. It's still just softball. Anyone with a brain would say O'Rourke says he wants to be president, but he won't tell you what that means. They would tell you this is literally hot topic for a presidential candidate. They ignore that he drove drunk and tried to flee the scene of an accident. They ignore that he has breaking and entering and theft charges. They ignore his murder fantasy about killing children, his horrible sexist and just misogynist poetry, his insane life of privilege, or as they call it, his cultural appropriation, by saying his name is Beto when his name is actually Robert Francis O'Rourke, a good Irish boy. His wife is not Hispanic either, as far as I know. He is a darling child of a rich family who married a rich woman so to make him richer. O'Rourke is not at all what the country needs. O'Rourke needs to be told, go back to kindergarten. Do all 12 years. Then go back to college and actually study. Then get a real job. Better yet, don't even go to college. Go back to K-12 again. Then get an apprenticeship with a plumber or an electrician or a contractor and actually work for a living. Do what you ignore, but what you say we should all do. It's really hard not to just go insane looking at this idiot claiming he wants to tear down a wall after he's just literally said there's no crime here while standing in front of a wall. A man who says barriers are immoral and don't work while standing surrounded by fences that he's had erected to keep his rallies safe. A man who literally will tell you in a roundabout way that he deserves protection while you don't. All of this must stop. All of it. And we're the ones to stop it. Yes, we're going to see the absolute circus that is the Democratic National Committee's primary next year, where we're likely to have 20 or more candidates, all calling each other evil names while smiling and patting them on the back, all saying, your tax hike doesn't do enough. I'll tax you more, and getting praise for it. We're going to see Bernie Sanders, a millionaire who lives in multiple homes and has private fleets of cars while he sleeps behind walls and guns, will tell you that you need to be taxed more and you need to give up those guns. We're going to see Kamala Harris, who had an affair with a married man, tell you Trump is evil because he says mean things. And we need you to pay more in taxes and give up your guns. We're going to see Liawatha Warren, who's going to tell you she has no sympathy for those caught up in the college bribery scandal, although she lied to a college to get in as well. We're going to see the people who castigated Brett Kavanaugh because he admitted he likes beer while he was being screeched at and told he was guilty without a trial for something that happened 3 decades ago somewhere that someone saw. But everyone they found to say they were there said it didn't happen. It has to stop. We need to look at these idiots like O'Rourke, Warren, Harris, Sanders, and we need to say no. Your platform of subjugating and taxing into oblivion the American people is not going to work. We need to look at them and tell them, you just pay for it is not an answer to the question of how do you pay for $90 trillion in Medicare for all and so much more, plus more than $30 trillion for the Green New Deal that will destroy the country, while saying $25 billion for a wall that will stop human trafficking, sex trafficking, all manner of crime, including bringing in a fentanyl into the country to kill every American, and illegal immigrants who come into the country illegally, murder, rape, and more, get deported, and come back to do it again. We never heard the gun control agenda about the Kate Steinle story because it was an illegal immigrant that used a gun procured illegally to kill her. They couldn't say it's already illegal for him to even have a gun, and he got the gun illegally. So we need to pass a law he would never have even thought about to make him really stop. No. They look at other things where a good guy uses a gun. Well, if guns were illegal, he wouldn't have had to. We watch as celebrities and politicians in Britain say we need to put GPS trackers in knives because now that Britain has finally made guns so hard to get into the country, criminals are using knives. So that now they need to track that. And then we see the parody humor where they'll all just walk around with a bucket of fish so that their knife is for their job. They're a fishmonger. But our knives are taken away. The explanation was perfectly summed up by saying, you don't say because someone drove drunk and killed someone that no one is allowed a car. But that's exactly what we're doing. We're saying because one criminal used a firearm to kill law-abiding people who would only ever use a firearm to hunt, compete in a sport, or stop the murder of another, must have their weapons taken away. It's insanity. Plain and simple, it's insanity. And the problem is we have supposed academics praising it. We have supposed journalists who softball questions about this. And given the chance, were O'Rourke on the show with Cooper, he would lob a few softball questions, then let O'Rourke fantasize about living in the White House. We need to send a clear message, all of us, to Washington, D.C., that we are not going to accept all Americans are equal. Some are more equal than others. Ever. We're not going to accept you must give me your money as truth. We're not going to accept you're not allowed to do this, that, or the other, but we are. We're not living in Orwell's Animal Farm or 1984, Bradbury's 451, or Huxley's Brave New World, and we never should. But that's enough from me. Make sure that you leave a like, subscribe, sign up for notifications. That way you're always kept up to date on what I'm doing, what I'm talking about. As I've said in other videos, I am, or was, a social studies teacher at the high school level, and I'm planning on releasing a few videos where I will actually lecture as I did many years ago. Unfortunately, social studies is woefully undertaught by people who are teaching part-time. There's students who graduate without knowing the Constitution, so I'm going to do what I can to remedy that. And you'll need to be a subscriber so that you can make sure and keep up with it. Until then, you can find me here on Twitter, and I will be back at the next time. Until then, keep your powder dry.